What's up, guys? Welcome back to RT2CC Comic Club. Justin here, and today is going to be another little recap video over the last 2 days. I didn't film yesterday. I don't believe I did, but so we're going to talk about the balances. I believe yesterday we did lose some money, so I'll post the closing balances that we had as of yesterday, and then as of today, we closed at 143 today, a little over 143,000. So we made about, according to the app, 5,800, but you know, that number kind of varies sometimes because of after hours stuff. But the stuff I want to talk about yesterday is the covered calls that I sold. Now, earnings was coming up for Apple and Universal Display. So Apple reported earnings today, but yesterday was when I sold the covered calls. And I did notice that the option prices were much more expensive this time around because of the earnings. And whether that be because specifically like the volume was going up, that could have been a good reason, or the implied volatility was increasing, which is probably another thing that happens during earnings right before. And so I'm not an expert on that, but I believe just based on experience from talking to other people, that seems to be the case. Earnings like kind of drives the prices up a little bit during like that week or a little bit like the few days leading up to it. And since I've been selling covered calls every Monday, or almost since like February now, I did notice that. It kind of caught me by surprise when I was looking at the prices, and I was like, oh, holy crap, I made like, you know, between $33 and like $36 selling one covered call for Apple and Universal Display. But this time around, I made like $70 something. And so I noticed that the prices were much higher, especially for Universal Display. It was like, I made like $52 on that call, and then like 23 or something like that for the Apple one. And I was able to go to a much higher strike. And I'll post a screenshot. I did notice something that was weird. The $108 strike that I picked for Universal Display was a little bit more expensive than even the one below it, like the strike below it. I wasn't really sure why. Again, if you have any idea, you can post in the comment section below, but it could have been, I don't know, there's a couple of reasons, or a few reasons maybe, or more, that could have caused that. But anyways, fact of the matter is the prices were up, so that's a good time to sell covered calls. If you own a stock is leading up to earnings, you can sell even a higher strike and still make more money, which I did. And you know, if the earnings are good, you do risk losing your shares, but if they're not, you just made more money on that call. But you know, you lose money with the stock, so it's kind of like, you know, I like to look at it as a long-term thing. Like Apple's a stock I'm going to hold regardless, and Universal Display is a stock I'm going to be holding at least for the next couple of years until I really see what happens with the OLED TVs. So in the meantime, I can just make extra income from dividends and then selling covered calls. It's two extra sources of income, and so that's just part of my strategy going forward. Anyways, so top gainers for today, we had Amazon, Apple, Tesla, Intel, Weight Watchers, which is funny because that was also one of our losers. So our 2019 call went up, but our 2020 call went down. $80 strike for the 2020, but $70 strike for the 2019. But Weight Watchers stock did go up 4.08% today, so that was pretty sweet, $2.86. Universal Display also went up today. So I'm going to talk about just some articles. The main headline was Apple earnings, so I'm going to get to that in a minute. But yesterday, one of the headlines I saw was Disney's Avengers Infinity War, which I did see, by the way. I think I mentioned that. Really good movie. Breaks records with over $640 million opening weekend. And by the way, from what I read, that does not even include China yet, so it's just going to be ridiculous how much money they're going to make. And I think they did break finally like the record for domestic opening weekend, just edging out Force Awakens, Star Wars. When I first read the article, it said that it was just behind it, but then I saw another article that said that they did surpass them. So I think the final number was like 252 million or something like that, which is crazy just for domestic earnings. Anyways, so let's talk about Apple earnings. The big thing was, obviously people weren't expecting the iPhone's 10 sales to be great, but they were pretty much in line with expectations, so that was fine. But the biggest thing was their $100 billion share buyback. That was like probably the big thing. There was an article about the Gene Munster, who's Loop Ventures founder, former Piper Jaffray research analyst. There's a video, I'll post a link in the description of this article. He talked about how Apple's a cash generating machine, and that they're head and tails above any other FANG stock and really any other company really in the market. That's what he was saying. He said that they're trying to get to cash neutral, which they've said before, and I don't 100% understand what that means exactly. Like, you could look that up though, and I'm sure it's not too difficult to understand. I just haven't really done research on it. But anyways, they were talking about spending $60 billion per year to investors, like obviously through dividends and stuff. but just that alone, he said, could shoot the stock up 7% higher in the next year, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good gain, you know, for them. Like, I mean, I don't think anyone's complaining about stock going up. So 7% is fine. That would be, I think they can go up more though, especially if their iPhone. I mean, he said that alone would drive it 7%. So if you factor in everything else, it could go up a lot more. So this other article said Apple doesn't care if you don't want the iPhone 10, and I'll post a link in the description for this one as well. But this kind of talks more about the details of the earnings. But the revenue was $61.1 billion, just beating expectations, and up 15% from a year earlier. And it was their best ever second quarter for sales. And they also did a 16% increase to its quarterly dividend. Now their services, and this was really important, the services segment made $9.2 billion in revenue in the most recently completed quarter, it said, and it was the most ever for this business segment in a single quarter, and 31% more than a year earlier. It also said that if you took this segment alone, just the services segment of Apple, and made it its own company, that revenue would make it a Fortune 100 company just on its own. So that is crazy, crazy statistics right there. And that is the one that, and if you look at this article, they show a graph of the other segments that are not iPhone related. The services is the only one that keeps going up right now. The iPhone or the iPad, iMac, and some of the other stuff is kind of going down a little bit in recent quarters, but the services is a huge, I'm pretty sure, pretty high margin too. So that's a good thing. So we're gonna leave it at that. There's lots more to talk about, but you know, I don't want to drag on. So if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends, and comment below. Were you expecting good earnings from Apple, or were you expecting bad earnings? I just want to know. I know this video won't get to you for maybe another month. I apologize, but if you can go back in your memory about a month ago or so, what were your thoughts on the dividends? Did you do any trades before then? You know, what was your strategy going up to the earnings? So comment below. Love to hear from you guys. And thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.